Thank you, Manfong. So I'm excited to share with you the launch of STDR grant call for this July, as well as some tips to help you with your preparation of the applications. So here I would like to highlight two important information regarding the STDR grant. So firstly is that the quantum ceiling for pre-pilot projects, which are more earlier stage project, is 325K inclusive of 30% indirect cost for up to 1 year. And for the pilot projects, which are more mature projects, its quantum ceiling is $1 million inclusive of 30% indirect cost for up to 2 years. Secondly, I would like to emphasize that the pilot application format will be in the form of a pitch deck and a short technical write-up to complement the pitch deck. More details on this will be covered in the subsequent slides. So now for the juicy details for the July grant call. So everyone get ready. We will be launching our grant call on 15 July, Tuesday on iGrants, and that is in 2 weeks' time. And it will close on 28 August, 5 p.m. Thursday. So I'd like to emphasize here that all applications must be endorsed by the Innovation and Enterprise Office and Research Directors when you submit your application. So please reach out to your respective IEO office early to get the endorsement. So these are the other important dates for you to take note. So in October this year, there will be presentation to review panel for the pre-pilot Stream 2 applicants for the platform technology project. And in early November this year, shortlisted pilot applicants will be presenting to the review panel. So do make yourselves available for this presentation. And the letter of award will likely be issued in the first quarter of 2026. So these are the eligibility criteria that you would need to take note of. So the lead PI would need to have a 0.7 FTE primary appointment in a Singapore public institution. And if you're a postdoc, you can still apply for the SDR grant, but do include in your application a letter of support from your supervisor stating the 3 points here. If you don't fulfill any of the eligibility criteria, please submit a waiver request to the SDR Secretariat by 21st August. That is 1 week before the deadline of the grant call. And this will be considered on a case-by-case basis. So this is an overview of the STDR funded projects. So for the pre-pilot projects, which are earlier stage exploratory and proof of concept projects with some preliminary data, we award up to 325K for up to 1 year. And it consists of the Stream 1, which focuses on single asset target validation, and Stream 2, which are for platform technology projects. So these are some of the examples of pre-pilot projects which were funded. For the pilot projects, which are more mature projects that had been validated to a certain degree, we award around $1 million for up to 2 years, and it can either be single asset or platform technology, covering from target validation to preclinical work. So these are some of the examples of pilot projects which were funded. So now I will move on to share with you on what makes a strong application from a reviewer's point of view. So for successful applications, they have good strategic positioning. That is, they answer the 3 points on why, what, and they also define the target product profile. So in terms of why, the teams provide a compelling reason for why their proposed work is relevant. For example, whether it addresses an unmet medical need or whether it's a versatile platform that can be used to derive multiple products. In terms of what, the team provides clarity on the product's role in the disease indication. They describe its usefulness, benefit, and the value that it brings. So in terms of TPP, they provide a framework on what are the product's properties, who will be using it, what are the competitive advantage compared to the current standard of care or alternative approaches which are currently under development. Successful applications also have good execution planning, whereby they address these 3 remaining points. Firstly, in terms of development plan, they have a realistic plan that they could identify what are the critical experiments they need to conduct to achieve their goal, and what are the points of go or no-go decisions, and what are the value inflection points that demonstrate progress or reduce uncertainty. Secondly, in terms of who, the team consists of a multidisciplinary team with strong expertise in relevant research areas. And thirdly, and this is more applicable for the pilot projects, to have a good commercialization strategy, whereby the team describe the business model with specifics and context on how the clinical asset will get to the patient, or if it's in terms of platform, how will the platform be scaled for commercial use? Are they looking at spinning off, licensing, or co-development with pharma partners, or become a service provider? So now I will move on to talk briefly about the pilot application material, which is firstly consists of a pitch deck. So all pilot applicants are required to submit a pitch deck, but only shortlisted pilot applicants will be pitching to the reviewers. This would be a 12-minute presentation followed by a 13 minutes Q&A. So the questions which are provided in the pitch deck template are actually meant to guide applicants in addressing the key points. So we encourage applicants to approach your IEO office early for advice or help in preparing the pitch deck. So for a more detailed tips on STDR pitch deck preparation, do head over to our website to access the video on the art of pitching by Dr. Alice Chen from Accelerator Life Science Partners, where she provided a more comprehensive explanation to guide STDR applicants on what to include in the STDR pitch deck. But just for the benefit of our audience here, I'll just briefly go through the pitch deck template. Okay, so if you were to listen to Dr. Alice Chen's video recording, she mentioned that when you pitch, it's actually to tell a story, and a story consists of three main components. Firstly, is to understand what is the problem. Secondly, what is the proposed solution? And thirdly, what is the ask? Are you asking for funding or investment or advice? So this slide here addresses the problem. What is the problem that you are trying to solve, and why is it important? So in the opening statement, you would need to elaborate on what is the value proposition and unmet need that you are trying to address, which include the disease indication, addressable patient population, and what are the gaps you're trying to address with your technology. Once you have described what is your problem statement and your value proposition, you can then move on to the proposed solution. So in this slide, you will be describing the solution and why should the audience care about it. So this is one of the most important components of your pitch deck, whereby you will need to include the description of your technology, what is the mechanism of action, what is the fundamental science behind it, and what is the disease relevance, addressable patient population, and how does your technology relate to the problem you outlined. So next, in this section, you will need to further elaborate on the development status of your technology and the key data set. You will need to include in what are the proof of concept data to support your claim, and what is the current stage of your development, whether is it in vitro or in vivo validation, or whether you're looking at efficacy or safety. So basically, you need to describe which part of the development pipeline are you at. So it is also important to make sure that the slides in your pitch are actually connected one to another, from the problem statement to the proposed solution to the existing data set which allows to give people confidence on your proposed solution. So once you have constructed these slides for the proposed solution and the supporting data package, next you can move on to the product vision. So for the product vision, for the single asset, it's important to show what is the target product profile. Basically, is the ideal product properties that you plan to develop. So here we outline several considerations on how you can elaborate on your TPP, such as efficacy, safety, and administration. So for platform projects, product vision would include what is the ideal application platform, rationale for prioritizing these applications, as well as what is the ideal profile on how you like the platform to be and which problem you can address with most effectively. So the TPP are mainly constructed based on both the unmet need as well as the competition that is available. So in the next section, it's important to talk about the competitive landscape and differentiation strategy, as competition will have an influence on how you develop your technology. So in this section, you will need to elaborate on your competition compared to the current standard of care or other competition under development, whether preclinical or clinical. So you will need to also describe what is the differentiation strategy that you can use which makes your technology stands out to show the superiority of your approach. So if you will look through the video by Dr. Alice Chen, she mentioned that there are actually two main purposes for this section on competitive landscape and differentiation strategy. Firstly, is actually to showcase your technology and compare it to be side by side with other technology out there, hopefully to show the superiority characteristic of your technology. Even if there's no available data right now because your project is at an early stage, it's important to articulate the potential of it being different and better than the competition out there. Secondly, is actually to showcase how knowledgeable you are in the field, in that you know your technology as well as other relevant technology available. So it shows that you know the field and that you are actually a key opinion leader in this field. And this would actually give the audience, in your case would be the reviewers, the confidence that your technology have been pressure tested and that it is convincing. So the next part is on the IP position. So in this section, we encourage you to reach out to your respective IO office regarding your IP. It's important to ensure that the IP is not encumbered and there is freedom to operate. Next is the translation strategy, where you would need to think about how you move from research to development. Here, you need to elaborate on what your vision might be for translation from a business development point of view or technical point of view, as well as understand what are the risk factors that you may face and how you plan to mitigate it. And how would the team look like and why they are the right fit for your team. And also, who are the potential investors or partners and the key inflection points. Last but not least is the development plan, which is the second most important part of the pitch deck. So you would you already described what is the problem, the proposed solution, the information package associated with your proposed solution. Now, in this section, it's time to discuss what are your future development plan. So in this section, you are telling people what you are trying to do, as well as the milestone, budget, timeline. Basically, is actually you're asking people for the ask. You will also need to include here the development timeline during and after the STDR period. So just a note for the development plan, for PIs with large programs supported by multiple grants, it would be helpful to provide an overview of the entire program, not just the portion intended to be funded by STDR, as this will give reviewers a more holistic understanding and enable them to offer more strategic and constructive feedback. So to complement the pitch deck, pilot applicants are also required to submit a short write-up on technical information. So in this write-up, you can provide more details on supporting preliminary data and the proposed experimental strategy. So I would like to emphasize the applicant should ensure that there is consistency between both the pitch deck and the write-up, because we had received feedback from reviewers saying that there was some application with inconsistency between these two submissions. Yeah. So now I'll be going through with you the 7 common pitfalls for pilot applications based on the reviewers' feedback. So firstly, pilot applications may be rejected because they are considered too early with insufficient preliminary data, such as lacking target validation data. So for example, the role of the target in the disease was not sufficiently verified, or they may have identified virtual hit compounds with no further verification. Secondly, they lack detailed mechanism of action, whereby they lack data on how the particular molecule was implicated in the disease, what is the mode of action, whether it has any synergistic or causative link with other molecules. So for these two issues, we would encourage our pilot applicants to apply for the pre-pilot instead to address this. Thirdly, some projects are rejected because of the seemingly lack of relevant expertise, which can be identified especially through the Q&A session, whereby the PI seemed to be unable to answer the questions relating to the project. So if you're shortlisted for the pilot application, it's important to do a practice session to practice or brainstorm questions that will be asked. Fourthly, rejected projects lack explanation on the differentiation of their approach compared to current standard of care or other available therapies under preclinical or clinical development. Example, they didn't highlight key differentiation of their approach versus competitors. There's a lack of head-to-head comparison with available competitor drugs or standard of care, and they did not present a convincing plan to overcome issues faced by their direct competitors or failed clinical trials. So fifth, there's a lack of consideration of how to address potential safety issues. For example, they lack the safety profile data of their proposed approach, or they did not describe a plan to mitigate any potential toxicity issues associated with the target, molecule, or even delivery method. Six, they lack a good target profile, whereby there was no clear criteria of what success looks like. And lastly, they lack a strong development plan and commercialization strategy where formulation and delivery issues were not addressed or that they did not outline a clear commercialization pathway. So for those who have been rejected, not to worry, you can resubmit your application in this grant call, and it's important to keep in mind this resubmission strategy. So those successful resubmissions, they generally address reviewers' comments, include in additional data, have more outstanding factors such as greater commercialization potential or potential to expand to other indications, and that they had good progress since the last review. Oftentimes, those who are unsuccessful, they lack key aspects such as a compelling differentiation factor or commercialization potential, and they lack significant progress since their last review. So these are some of the available resources which you can find online. And if you have further questions, do include it in the Q&A chat box or email to us to the STDR Secretariat team. And you can head to our STDR website to download the application material. So just a note that this deck will also be uploaded on the website after today, and a recording of this roadshow will also be made available. Thank you.